Chapter 8 Disoriented Kinship. Down the hill from the trail, Pacifica laid face down in the snow. Luckily, she didn't suffer any bruises or severe injuries, but ever since the incident happened, she felt too empty and depressed to even keep her body safe. She slowly got up from the snow, wiping the snow from her face. She looked up the hill where she launched off from, with the moon appearing from the clouds in the sky. When she turned to the forest, it was too dark to see where she's going. There were no Christmas lights in the distance, unlike the view she saw from above. She sighed, knowing if she ended up climbing up the hill, she would fall back down. Without doing the risky alternative, she wandered into the darkness. She was slower than normal due to the height of the snow, and without a trail like the ones to and from town. Not to mention, the temperature was freezing. She sneezed, with some snot coming out of her nose. She never felt what it's like to have a cold in a blizzard due to her parents keeping her under a roof through the whole winter. She looked around, trying to find a way to get out before her cold got worse. Even if her friends will look after her, what else would do her any favors? All she'll think about is what her life would be once her parents find her. The only way she'll prevent that is to hide herself in the forest by camping just like Wendy, but she isn't an expert at camping. As she continued to walk, she heard a tree cracked not far away, causing her to flinch. "Oh no," she reacted. Soon it got closer as she hid behind the tree. She doesn't know if it's her parents, but it could be something dangerous, like a bear, a wolf, or a dangerous creature in Gravity Falls. It got closer to her while placing its hand on the tree, catching Pacifica's attention. In an instant, she made a snowball to attack it while making a run for it. She looked up as it popped its head. She threw her snowball, causing it to get back as she ran away, but she immediately stopped. "You're not going anywhere," he spoke in the darkness. Pacifica noticed those 3 figures instead of 1, causing her to walk back until she bumped into the threat. When she looked up, one of the 3 turned on the flashlight, revealing Wendy's father, Daniel, with snow on his face. "A northwest," he groaned. Pacifica slowly took steps back from Daniel while looking at Wendy's brothers in the process. "I'm really sorry. I thought you were a dangerous animal." "Don't ever tell me that," he yelled. "I'm extremely in a bad mood right now." "We've been going in circles in Gravity Falls," Gus replied. "Hours and hours of searching," Kevin added. "And we still didn't find our sister Wendy," Marcus crossed his arms. "I thought for a second we found her, but instead it's just you." "A northwest we hate," Daniel said. Pacifica shook from the presence of Wendy's family, especially Daniel himself. "Please, I wasn't messing with you. I don't even know you." Daniel then leaned down, giving Pacifica her full attention. "Your parents do. They brag about how much better they are than us." "Oh great," she sighed, after watching her parents push down Wendy. "What did they do to you?" Kevin walked up to her from behind, looking straight in her eyes, forced to give her one of the dreaded memories of the Northwest families. "Last year, when we were training, they drove past in the limo, yelled at us from the windows. 'Enjoy saving the woodland nobodies, lumberjokes.'" Pacifica felt disgust while remembering she had to practice in church nearly the whole day whilst her parents were driving around. She doesn't need to ask if Wendy was with them for how she could contribute to protect others. "I can't imagine how you felt when I invited you to the Northwest Fest." Daniel crossed his arms, learning it was their daughter who invited him. The one good deed won't make up for how they mocked and trashed the Corduroy family. The former witch girl lowered her head, as if it wasn't enough for her to handle any more drama upon arriving at the festival. Less and less happiness whilst the corduroys are feeling anything but happy. I would be happy to apologize for how my family treated you, but I'm dealing with my own problems. Why are you even here anyways? Gus asked. I wanted to enjoy the Christmas festival after I got away from my parents, but as of late, it's not doing a holly jolly job. How come? Because it's the only time I'm ever going to celebrate Christmas, and never again. Bet your parents hated Christmas as much as I do, Daniel said. Do I need to be illiterate? No, not at all. For your information, that's what Wendy did when she wanted to go to the Christmas festival. Unbelievable. She left us just when we're training for the next apocalypse, Marcus replied. This caused Pacifica to groan. Do you have any idea why she would leave you all? We don't celebrate Christmas, Daniel retorted. We still do a tradition of training in December no matter what. That's the problem, Pacifica stomped on the ground. You don't even know there's going to be another apocalypse, and it's wasting her time and stressing her out. Stress is important to keep her focused. No, it isn't. How do you know? Kevin wondered. Did you see her enjoying the festival? Gus added. Yes, I did, Pacifica responded. Do any of you understand what Christmas does to people like Wendy? Daniel's nerve pinched while controlling his strength. No! He was about to hit a tree, catching Pacifica's fright as she looked away. But he slowly let go of his fist, calming his anger, but depression got the better of him. But my wife does. He walked past Pacifica and his sons, catching them by surprise as he went through the trees. Dad, Gus followed him. Come back here, Kevin also followed. What about Wendy? Marcus added while being the last to follow. Pacifica felt confused from Daniel's change in attitude. In fact, she was the first who saw him like this and not his daughter. She followed them to get more answers, but she's mostly concerned on how he'll take it. Upon heading past the final tree, she witnessed him sitting on the log with his son sitting next to him with an open view of the stars from above. He placed both of his hands on his face while taking deep breaths. Marcus took notice of her slowly making her way. Don't even think about it. Please, I'm just trying to help, she spoke. What can you do that we can't? Gus asked. Something a Northwest would normally never do. With just the right amount of space on the other side of the log, she sat down next to Wendy's father. She may still be afraid of him, but she knows he won't hurt her. He's never that type of person and father. What happened to your wife? She placed her hand on his arm. And what did she feel about Christmas? Daniel took a deep breath while listening to Pacifica, letting out all the air to control his emotions. Christmas is her favorite holiday, but I never told Wendy. Christmas is her favorite holiday, Gus replied, and you never told us? I did this for myself, 16 years ago when Wendy was born. Does she ever come over to visit? Pacifica asked. Yes, but not in December. Daniel then turned to her to get her full attention. Wendy was the only child in my family who celebrated Christmas with my wife when she was a baby. I had that VHS from that Christmas that I kept in my bedroom for that long because I didn't want Wendy to see it. Pacifica always wondered what that Wendy was just like her, but her father kept it a secret from her. It's unbelievable she hasn't witnessed the VHS to this day. My parents kept a lot of secrets from me including the crimes I found out by myself. Are we supposed to be surprised by that? When I was waiting outside of the mansion, I knew they wanted nothing to do with me and the Corduroy family. You sat in the fountain, Pacifica remembered. Was that the only thing you can get revenge on? No, I wasn't the only one enjoying it. I expected kids longer than me to jump in the fountain. I enjoyed jumping in fountains when I was 7, but you're missing the point. Daniel took another deep breath to get back on topic. My wife and I agreed that that's the last time we celebrate Christmas. Yes, I celebrated the holiday with my wife before we took training seriously. Did she ever train? Not as much when we started training, Marcus answered. She used to train, but she isn't like Dad. And ever since we got older, we spent less time in Gravity Falls when she came over. We were bothered at first, but we eventually got used to it, Kevin added. Even Wendy had to face the fact that Mom doesn't need to look after her anymore, Gus added. But she still misses her, right? Pacifica catching on. I get you don't celebrate Christmas as a family. Not every family comes together, but is she the only one who wanted to celebrate Christmas as a family? Daniel knew someone would ask him that question, but he didn't want to answer it. But he wouldn't lie for how much he hated getting lied at. Yes, but I preferred training for every time Christmas came around. She promised me that after the Christmas that Wendy had, I'm allowed to have Apocalypse training from here on out. What did you have against Christmas? Did you ever have a Christmas when you were a kid? No. My mom and dad wanted me to train and they never gave me a Christmas present. He then looks away from Pacifica, remembering the times when he got engaged to his wife. And after I got married, I couldn't find a gift for her to understand the spirit of giving. Pacifica had nothing to think about after what Wendy's father just expressed. His lifespan, longer than her, shows how much his lumberjack life slightly copes with his past Decembers. For how much she went through under the control from her parents, she can't imagine what Daniel's parents really feel about Christmas. Then she and the brothers witnessed Daniel crying, catching them by surprise. Dad, Marcus spoke. With tears streaming down on his face, he turned to his sons. I've been too consumed with Apocalypse training. Being a man is what makes me happy. I just wanted you all to be like me, and so did Wendy. He then turned to Pacifica. But my wife wanted Wendy to be like her, celebrating Christmas because she wanted Wendy to love Christmas in her childhood. He sniffed his nose with more tears coming out, but I took that away from her, and took that away from my wife. He placed his hands on his face, dealing with the repercussions. His sons also cried after getting the truth from him. They got off the log to give him a hug. They gave him the closest comfort he'll get, but all that's missing is her daughter. Pacifica felt stunned from the way Daniel cried, to the point where he's no longer a macho man, but a normal guy, tears streaming down his face. It was the first time she ever saw a father cry, with the sympathy she's experiencing, unlike her parents who never had sympathy. She got off the log to look at Daniel face to face. He opened his eyes as she spelled out the truth. I have been with Wendy since I escaped. You were? Yes, and we avoided you and my parents so we can enjoy the Christmas festival. With the truth out loud and clear, she looked away. I didn't expect to bump into her, but at the same time, I didn't know where to start in the Christmas festival. She cut down a Christmas tree who we called Miss Adorn Lumberer Tree. It made her enjoy Christmas, so did I. She wanted to bring that tree home, but she's aware you won't allow it. The corduroys couldn't face the fact that the Christmas lights on the trees are beautiful, especially the decorations on the buildings. We've been trained for so long, we never saw any decorations, Marcus said. I would have found it fun to see what our house would be like with Christmas lights, Gus commented. Mom would have given us great Christmas memories, Kevin teared up. You're right, Daniel cried. I'm a failure as a husband and a failure as a father. No, you're not, Pacifica spoke. You're nowhere near a failure. You're never not as terrible as my mom and dad. How would you know? You don't even know what it's like being a lumberjack, Marcus said. I know, I don't know what it's like, but on the other hand, I got to know your daughter a little bit more. Even if I don't plan on being a lumberjack, I was never a threat to you and Wendy, unlike my parents. When the Corduroys and Daniel heard Pacifica's choice of words, they couldn't imagine how she'd embarrass them in the same ways her parents did. But Daniel learned that that's how Pacifica's parents raised her, in the same ways he raised his kids. But the difference is he's not rich and never understood the power of wealth that turned people into horrible people. Did wealth change you? He asked. I was born into wealth. I couldn't control what I have in my life. She then walked up to him. If I was able to raise myself without my parents, I wouldn't look down on you. The truth was loud and clear. Daniel smiled. He let go of his sons and gave Pacifica a hug, but not tightly, catching her by surprise. Thanks, he responded. I need to make things right with Wendy. What are we going to do? Gus asked. Daniel broke the hug, whilst turning to his sons. We're giving Wendy a surprise when she gets home. It's not much, but still a Christmas gift from all of us. This gave Pacifica an idea to help out Daniel. She took out her pamphlet and lifted it up to him. Take this, she spoke as Daniel looked down. This has a map of the whole festival. Those shops you can go to if you have money. As Daniel looked at the pamphlet, he looked at the options, but most importantly the map of the festival. He didn't bother taking a pamphlet for how enraged he was, but if it wasn't for Pacifica, he wouldn't find a way to surprise his daughter, especially towards the end of the Christmas season. Boys, he looked at them, let's do our first ever Christmas shopping for Wendy. Awesome, Kevin cheered. Do you think we have enough time to decorate our place with Christmas lights? Gus asked. If we make a run for it, yes, Daniel grinned. Should we also try to avoid her to keep the secret from her? Marcus asked. You should, Pacifica smiled. I won't tell her what happened until you show her the surprise. She had my back, so I'll have your back just for her. Thanks, Daniel smiled. Let's go, boys. After the corduroys hugged Pacifica, they and their father went through the woods to get to the Christmas festival. For Pacifica, she sat back down on the log alone. As much as she's proud of herself, her time is still being numbered. She would follow Daniel and his sons to get out of the forest, but at the same time, she'll gain nothing of safety, knowing that her parents would mock them in the same ways they did to Wendy, if not worse. She placed her hands on her face, still worried about what her parents would do once they found her. She wanted to prove them wrong, but it's nearly impossible with a religious organization being their highest moral compass. She couldn't do a thing with her contributing to it all, which makes her afraid they're using it against her despite doing it without her consent. With clouds appearing in the sky, the snowflakes returned, falling from above. But she couldn't have killed Yes. Snowflakes wouldn't even lift her Christmas spirit even if Christmas lights were around her. Once she leaves, her life will be worth living in sorrow. Pacifica! She then lifted her head up, witnessing Wendy in the forest. Pacifica! Wendy, I'm right here, she called while getting up from the log, catching Wendy's attention. Wendy made her way as she walked up to Pacifica. You okay? Nothing bruised? I'm fine, I just stayed here to be alone, she lowered her head. Well, when Soos and the others came back, they told me what happened, so I asked the people where I could search for you. You came here with the dogs you used? She asked. It was the only way to find you since you were next to the trail up the hill. Let's go, I have the dogs waiting from the trail down the hill. Wendy went through the woods as Pacifica followed her. Once Wendy got Pacifica out of the woods, they got on the sled as Wendy used her whip to have the dogs move, heading back to the gate where their friends were waiting. Wendy noticed that Pacifica's down in depression, even after being rescued. If this is about your parents, don't think about them, she responded. The night is getting close to being over, but you could try to avoid your parents when you leave. How? They will find me eventually. Better than being with them? No. Soos told me he's willing to have you sleep in the mystery shack with the doors locked. This caused Pacifica to lift her head up. If your parents never went there, it'll be your new home. She then faced reality with the biggest setback. If they lose custody of you. Pacifica wished it was possible, but she doesn't have proof of the crimes. If it's worth living a happy life, even if I have to stay indoors at all times, sure, she slowly smiled. I'll still be on the lookout, don't worry, Wendy also smiled. Let's focus on what we should do next in the festival. Do you want to pick the next one? Totally. I think it'll cheer you up.